Bum, bum. Do you know, I really, really think we need some intro music. That'd be really cool if we had that. Good evening, good evening, good evening. And as you may have gathered, you are watching the Dark Mirror radio show, minus one person. The Taylor. The Taylor May is not here. She's still in London with her other half and his family, but she is back Sunday. But I will say that I will be introducing you I'll be introducing you to a special guest in a bit, and that special guest is also going to become a regular on this show. He's going to be joining the team, so that will be interesting. I'm talking to myself. There's nobody here. Nobody's watching me. So let me just come over here, because the only way I can see if there's anybody there is to go onto here, and then if this ever works, click this. No, this isn't going to work, is it? No, it's not at all. So let's go back. Ha ha ha! Here we are. Right, we need this bit over here. You fooled me. Right. Okay. Is it me or is it hot? Right. Now let me just find where we are. We are there. Okay. Right. So here we go. We're back on. Right. Yes. So I'm just waiting for our newest team member and guests for tonight to arrive. And God, I am melting, as you probably all are. It was 27 degrees here about 5 minutes ago. What is it now? 25 degrees here at the moment, which is double it now 30, so that's 80 at the moment. I've had the fan full blown, and I've had to turn it off because otherwise I won't be able to hear you. You won't be able to hear me. So yes, as I was saying, we have a new team member to the Dark Mirror radio show, and he will be, he says, staring at the screen, as soon as he sorts himself out, joining us. And we have got, drum roll please, Haunted Biscuit Barrel. Yes, it is a Mickey take. Yes, it is a Mickey take, but there is a haunting theme behind it, and I'll get him to tell you about that because when he told me, I see somebody here. I will just bring him into the show. Okay, let's wait for him to sort his screen out. Are you ready? Are you? You done? You ready?
Right. I think so.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wayne Seddon, he of the Spookanori fame. Hiya, Carl.
Oh, hiya.
You get it sorted out?
Sorry?
You get it all sorted out?
Yeah. It was something to do with permissions with the internet and Google and all the other bits and bobs that they like to throw in the way.
Well, I'm sorry, Carl. You know, you're busy with your radio show, and we do need somebody on here regularly, you see. And you dipped out. You were offered the spot. You'll go your radio show. So this is the next person in line, and that's Mr. Seddon here of the Spookanori fame. So go on, give yourself some gratuitous plug-in.
Some gratuitous plug-in?
Yes.
For Spookanori?
Yeah, you might as well. Go on.
Right, some people know, some people don't know who I am. But for many years, I worked on a certain TV show, which I don't particularly like to mention anymore. And during the times when the series wasn't showing, I would write ghost stories for the fans, and eventually I was pushed into publishing them. So eventually I started up the Wayne Seddon Presents Spookanori Facebook group, and I was writing and reading the stories live and through YouTube, and eventually I approached Amazon, and Amazon agreed that they would start publishing my books. And A Whistle from the Hills, if I get it in the right position,
just happens to have one with him.
is the first. This is the very first copy in existence. A Whistle from the Hills. It's a very short story, but there will be longer stories coming eventually. It's only 57 pages long, but it's short and sweet. But so far, I've had some really brilliant reviews, and I've been really grateful to people for buying the book and reading it and giving me the great review that it deserves. Because obviously it keeps more stories coming. So it's doing well so far. We've got a second one is due out on the 14th of August. And that's called Lady J, which I'm in the process of rewriting because I wrote it about 17 years ago. And there's a few issues with it that I didn't like, so I've altered it. So
if it's short and sweet, it's not. The whistle one. It's not. I came to the hill. I whistled. I heard somebody scream. Saw somebody else throw a stone. Or sod it. I'm going home.
No. Goes a lot more into detail. A Whistle from the Hill is based during the 1941 attack by German paratroopers, the Battle of Crete, and it's based around a guy who decides to go there. He's a history professor. And every summer he would spend his holidays going to places of interest that were related to World War II. And this year he decides he's going to go to Crete, and he hears about the town of Venogia, which was completely destroyed by the Germans because they kidnapped a German general. And so my story is based on what happened at Venogia and what happened to the men and the boys that were rounded up by the Germans, and it just goes from there. So it's
isn't it a little bit like what's happened in Captain Corelli's Mandolin?
Well, with Captain Corelli's Mandolin, that was obviously the Italian occupation of I can't remember what island it was now.
Somewhere. It was my dad's favourite film. I remember that.
It's a beautiful film, but obviously once the Italians surrender, the Germans have to take over.
That's right.
And whereas with Crete, it was I can't remember what they call it now. It's the German paratroopers. It was the first ever fully airborne assault. There was no other troops involved. It was a fully airborne assault on the island. And just the sheer weight of numbers pushed the Allied forces down to the south of the island, and the Royal Navy and other ships had to get them off quick. And only a few managed to stay behind, and they were obviously kept as prisoners of war. But the town of Venogia itself was quite significant to the story, simply because the women and the girls were all let free, and they all dispersed throughout the country, throughout the island. The men and the boys had to run for cover because most of the men were part of the Greek resistance.
Yeah.
And I think it was about 36 or 37 of them were rounded up, and they were executed and shoved in a ditch. And then the rest of the town was completely destroyed. They took a blackboard out of the local school and they placed it in the center of the village. And they wrote in both Greek and German that under no circumstances was this town to ever be rebuilt.
That's right. It was a lesson, wasn't it? It was a lesson to, I remember.
So, of course, when the war ended and the Germans had surrendered, the first thing the Greeks did was move back in and rebuild the town. Yeah. And so, of course, my story is based partly on that. But then brought into the modern era where this professor finds out a few things that he didn't know before, and he ends up going on a little sort of mini adventure and discovers what's been going on.
Nice one.
I do like it, but there are better ones to come.
Okay, well, we shall no doubt keep our ears and eyes peeled, and you can have many more gratuitous plugging as much as you want in the future. Nigel, I will be broadcasting on Facebook simultaneously. I'm hoping next month, and then it'll be done on both platforms at the same time, hopefully. But this young man here, hopefully, is going to be joining our team at some point, whenever he wants, because with Taylor being pregnant and throwing up a lot and feeling ill, and my head hurts. So
as you do.
Extra there. Yeah, exactly. We need somebody extra there. So, and him and I get on because, quite frankly, I do rip the Mickey a lot about certain TV program. But
Of course.
as Mr. Carl Hutchinson knows as well. So yeah, it's nice to have you on board, and we will show you the Haunted Biscuit Barrel later. Have you got it with you?
I have it here. Hang on, let me reach for it.
There you go. There's a Haunted Biscuit Barrel.
The Haunted Biscuit Barrel.
So,
yeah, we're not taking the Mickey too much.
So I wonder what that could be about. So staying in the vein as it has been the last few weeks, we're going to be talking obviously about the conspiracy theories. Before we start on the one that you chose, I'd just like to say I read one tonight, which, quite frankly, I read it and I felt my IQ die a little as I read it, because it's purely just imagining the stupidity of the people that A, come out with it, and B, believe it. The face masks that you wear, the metal strips in the face mask. Some people are trying to say that they are.
Sorry about that.
Some people are trying to say that those are actually antennas for 5G, and that in the 5G, those antennas are dispersing the COVID virus. I'll say that again. Those little masks that we wear, the little metal strips, are antennas for 5G and for COVID.
They won't find mine because I haven't got a metal strip in mine.
I haven't at mine either. I've got a motorbike mask that I wear. Yeah, leave it on, mate. Suits you.
It's got better teeth than me.
I think my granddaughter, who's only got 4, has got better teeth than me. So yeah, that's just the how some people think at the moment. And I've noticed as well that since all the masks have been made, you must wear them. The amount of people I've seen starting on other people, and you should be wearing a mask, and full-blown scraps and this, that, and the other over, and it's got ridiculous. It's got absolutely ridiculous, you know. Yep. And it's like West Yorkshire now has gone into lockdown. Other places up and down the country have been put into lockdown, and funny enough, it's all places that have got airports and have had a high influx of visitors. So
as long as mine doesn't, as long as mine don't go into lockdown for a couple of weeks' time.
You going away?
I'm heading off to Greece.
Oh, you jammy bugger! Nice. I've always wanted to go because I love archaeology and stuff. I always wanted to go to the Greek islands and see all the buildings and things. You know. Yeah,
well, I'm supposed to be. I'm going to Corfu, which was where A Whistle from the Hills was originally going to be based on.
Oh right, yeah.
But there wasn't enough history of World War II in Corfu, apart from the rounding up of about 3,000 Jewish people, and they were all sent to Auschwitz, which went against, you know, obviously what happened. Obviously, that was bad, but it didn't go with my story, and so I couldn't really have it based there. So I shifted it over to Crete instead. So it worked.
Are you going to be going to Crete as well?
I want to go to Crete, actually. I want to visit Enogia. Now I've written the book and I did the research on it. I actually want to visit Enogia now, and I want to have a look around. So, yeah, I mean, obviously as well, it's supposedly the birthplace of Zeus, and the labyrinth is supposed to be there. So I wouldn't mind having a look around some of these places.
Was it Knossos? The
Knossos.
Knossos, that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll tell you what, if you want to learn quite a bit about Greek mythology, and it's serious, play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because they've got all the, because I love the game, but it's got all the stuff in there, and it's got all the stories, and it's got birthplaces, use this, that, and the other, and it shows you the cave in the mountain where he was supposed to be born and everything, and how he came about, you know, and Kronos and all that lot. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but if your dad's eating your brothers and sisters, there's something wrong with your dad. That's all I'm saying. You know, he's not Knossos, he's not Kronos, he's one of the Sawney Bean family, I tell you. Anyway, what was your chosen subject for tonight?
Well, actually, originally it was going to be the death of JFK and the theory behind the water bullet. But I have since found one, which you mentioned before on another show, but this one is in relation to it, but slightly more bizarre. and it's about the Beatles. Obviously, before it was mentioned a couple of weeks ago about Paul McCartney had actually been he'd been killed in an accident, and they replaced him with somebody else that was very much like him and could sing like him.
That's right.
But this one, this goes back 3 years. Oddly enough, it's quite recent.
Yeah.
But it's about, were the Beatles created by the Illuminati to encourage US kids to take drugs?
Oh, well, that's along the same vein as rap was invented to get people to take drugs, isn't it?
Yeah. The bonkers theorists say the Fab Four were used to help bring down Christianity and the family unit.
When they say Jerry Lee Lewis, he was supposed to have been spawn of the devil as well, wasn't he?
Yep.
I mean, he did have a thing about his cousin, but, hey ho.
And it came about because it was a former MI6 officer in the 90s has said that, it'd been doing the rounds right up until the 50th anniversary of Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And he claimed that the band's success really took off with the help from Tavistock Institute for Human Relations. So he's already started to point the finger. And that is a group, and a British group, that studies group behaviour. So, of course,
interesting.
The theory has now been pushed into that era and that area as to see whether there was a reason behind the Beatles producing certain songs to try and get the youth of the time to behave in a certain way. Pretty much to what the accusations are being about now with the face masks. There's accusations now saying that they want you to wear the face mask, and the more people they get to wear the face mask, when the vaccine comes out, that will push everybody into taking the vaccine.
Yeah. Because
then they won't have to wear the face mask anymore. And I think this is a very similar style reading that the theorists believe the Beatles cracking the US market was aided by the Illuminati with the intention of taking control of education in America with the intent and purpose of utterly and completely destroying it.
Well, funnily enough, I mean, LSD was invented around the same time, wasn't it? Because that was a byproduct of what they were trying to do with the army, wasn't it?
Yeah. And you try and create yourself a group of super soldiers that don't feel pain. So if they're shot in a muscle area, they will carry on fighting because the LSD or the mixture of cocktail of drugs that they've taken won't allow them to feel that pain, and they'll just keep moving. And pain is obviously a part of it. When you're injured, you feel pain. That shuts you down, and that's when shock kicks in.
I've just got visions of a super soldier going into battle, shot the buggery, but singing "We All Live in the Yellow Submarine."
It's weird, but there's also a claim that the half-shadowed face on the With the Beatles album points to the one eye of Horus symbol.
You mean? Hang on.
Oh, you're going to find it.
You mean that? Hang on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. The one eye of Horus.
I'm going to have to look that up.
And then they even claim that a compilation entitled Past Masters is a Masonic term used to describe the former worshipful master of a Masonic lodge, and that the movie Magical Mystery Tour contains several Masonic handshakes.
Really?
Apparently. A shocking cover for the Yesterday and Today album shows John, Paul, George, and Ringo with dismembers baby dolls, which theorists claiming shows a link to the occult. And to be honest, it's quite a disturbing album cover. I don't, if that will eventually focus on it.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
But it is a little weird.
And in their arms are dismembered baby dolls.
Yeah, that is a little weird.
Which, obviously, for a group to have that sort of to have such a following. It's not the sort of thing you would have expected them to come out with.
Well, that's with the Beatles one. I don't really see what that's got to do with the Eye of Horus, really. Can you?
No,
Yeah.
not really.
I think a lot of it's clutching at straws. I really do.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising. But there's also a site claims that the iconic Sgt. Pepper cover includes a host of Illuminati stooges, including Aldous Huxley, Karl Marx, H.G. Wells, and George Bernard Shaw. And I'm not going to start scanning through the cover. I've got the cover right in front of me. And to be honest, I don't think I want to try and scan through it. But they've got people like Marilyn Monroe's on there, or it looks like her. Yeah, she's definitely on there. It looks like someone looks like Adolf Hitler at the back there. But there's Karl Marx is on there. So yeah, it's a bit freaky.
Well, it's like one of the ones we were touching on last week. We were talking about it earlier. You know, when I rang you earlier, the reptilian one.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like one of the ones I think I briefly touched on it last week was. I mean, quite frankly, because of knowing the guy singing, it wouldn't surprise me. Justin Bieber's supposed to be one.
Yeah.
But it's like Beyonce, you know, when she went, snoo, snoo, you know, like that she's supposed to be one.
The problem is, though, is when people have come out with that accusation, they've actually gone by a video that hasn't exactly been clear. You know, I think it was the Justin Bieber one I saw, and it had been zoomed in so many times that the picture clarity had gone, and you could see pixels around the edge. So obviously they'd zoomed in on it so many times, but by the time it got onto YouTube, the pixels were that clear that when he did blink, the pixels were coming in from left and right into the center. So it looked like his eyelids were, you know, an inner set of eyelids. And I haven't seen the Beyonce one, but the Justin Bieber one, that to me said that was a camera glitch.
Well, I think, quite frankly, the Beyonce one again, it was that one where it said "Death by Snoo Snoo," and it showed her all tensed up and a rather glamour shot. Let's just say it was the whole camel, not just the toe. But
right, she tucked her tail in too far.
Yeah, I think she had. But they reckon that you could see her eyes turning, and quite frankly, she did look like she was, well, she was either doing something else or imminently about to poop herself. I'm not sure, but all these things they keep saying, oh, it's this, and the Queen's supposed to be one, and this, that, and the other. But and again, everything all ties back to the Illuminati, adrenochrome, everything like that. You know, and they're all supposed to be part of the Illuminati. I mean, her other half, Jay-Z, he's supposed to wear Illuminati symbols on his jewelry and stuff. You know, I mean, I'm surprised a man can count to 10, let alone wear something like that. But you know, it's all supposed to stem with that.
The problem is though is that when whoever it is that looked into this into this theory. If I can see who this guy was that actually wrote the article, it was Alison Maloney. She's obviously sort of looked into a bit of history behind this. And apparently in 1963, Paul McCartney had said Christianity doesn't fit in with his life. And then 3 years later, John Lennon told Newsweek, Christianity will go, it will vanish and shrink. I need not argue about that. I'm right, and I will be proved right.
Lee turned into a hippie with Yoko Ono, didn't he?
Yeah. So, you know, obviously, why would you say something like that if there wasn't something? You know, is he sort of saying that as one of his own possible theories? That in the future Christianity will go because there's another religion coming through, which we've seen with Islam. Islam is always, you know, it's a couple of thousand years old. It's not as old as Christianity, but it's an old religion but over the years has slowly built, and there's more and more people joining the religion. So could that have been what he was going to be talking about?
Or there's the flip side of it. Was his ego so big that he really thought that his commune and kibbutz that he tried to do was going to get bigger and bigger and bigger? A bit like Waco, you know.
But I mean, the thing is if you go back 100 years, you know, most nations were one particular religion.
That's right.
But with the sort of the joining of people and allowing people of different cultures and that to come into the countries, along came their religions and their lifestyles as well. And when we accept it, that has then sort of advertised that religion or that faith to that area. So it then starts to build. So you compare now to 100 or 150 years ago, religions weren't as big. There was just the one, you know, probably one big religion with loads of smaller religions. Now there are other smaller religions that from 100 years ago that are now almost as big or bigger than Christianity.
Look at Scientology.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the two guys started out, you know, let's start something up. Oh, then let's base it on science. There we go. And we'll get everybody to plow vast amounts of money into it. And now look at them.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
let's wear a shirt. Let's wear a shirt once and then throw it away.
Yeah. Yeah. God, I wish I had that bloody money. I can tell you.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it? Oh, I don't want this shirt no more. Throw it away now. I've only just brought it. Never mind.
Exactly. Evening, Gary and James, the millionaire David Icke. Don't even get me started about David Icke. Oh,
I've heard a few things about him, and I've chosen to stay away from what he said.
He made a statement once saying that disabled people, like myself, are disabled because we did something horrible in previous life.
Didn't what's his face, the footballer, Glenn Hoddle? He said something similar, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he got himself into serious trouble for saying it.
Well, it's like, look at my hands. I mean, what the hell did I do? Was I nicked for chronic masturbation back in the 1600s? I don't know.
The thing is, though, is when we look at it now, is everybody is disabled in one way or another.
Exactly. Well, James is pretty right. I can't say right now, but James is pretty right.
They reckon that most people have got autism. It's just that people have a different form or a different severity of autism, but everybody has it. And it's weird because my son Ethan, he's got autism, but he's got high functioning autism, which means he'll go to sleep and he'll wake up 4 hours later and it'll be like he's been sleeping for 10 hours and he'll have loads of energy. And then he'll get late in the evening and he'll just shut down. But then with that comes the attention span, and his personality is also changed as well. So, but people don't notice that. And again, with the face mask, he doesn't have to wear one.
Yeah.
Because of his autism. He doesn't like anything around his face or his neck. So he can't wear a face mask. But we then take him into a shop because we are fearful of what people will say. And it's all because of this hidden disability that no one else has seen.
Well, my late son, he had ADD, ADHD, Asperger's, autism, and something else, and he was on the equivalent of speed to get him back to like our level. When he didn't have the speed, he was like, you know, attention span of a squirrel. But as soon as he had his tablet, he was back in the room. And it's the same with our youngest. They think he's got possibly ADD or a slight autism. And his attention span's daft, and like 1 minute he'll be, you know, normal lad, and the next minute you just like, what did you just say to me? You know, it's he has the mood changes and swings and stuff. But on the same spectrum, they reckon that rainbow spectrum kids are our next evolution, don't they? Yeah.
Well, look at Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein had autism.
Yeah.
And look what he did.
Marilyn Monroe, she could explain quantum physics and how it works. She just couldn't explain it, and she had a high enough IQ to be a member of Mensa.
Yeah, that's me as well. I've got a high enough IQ to be a member of Mensa, but I chose not to.
Taylor and I. Mine's 139. Hers is 142. I think it is. But you know, I can just scratch my ass. I can scratch my ass intelligently. That's it.
I don't tell you what my IQ score was.
Just don't wait.
Because it might be higher than it was when I last did the test, but it was higher than Albert Einstein's.
Nobody likes to show off.
Yeah, that's why I ain't telling you what the score was.
I've known you for a while, and I've not known you to be a Thicky McVicky. So you know.
No.
Well, no, I've got degrees with Oxford and Cambridge, don't you know?
No, I didn't. I haven't. I literally left school with nothing, and then I went back and did all my stuff.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what I did. I left school. I worked at Colchester Zoo for a year. Then I joined the Royal Air Force because I was too young at the time when I left school. I then was made redundant from the Royal Air Force, and that was when I started learning other things. So I went to Colchester Institute. I then did other bits and bobs, and I learned trades. I learned other stuff while I was doing them trades. And then when I started co-running my parents' coach company, I had to do degrees with Oxford and Cambridge to be able to take over the company. So I think it was about 3 with Oxford and 4 with Cambridge. And a local professor at Essex University that knew my parents said that with the qualifications that I've got, I should have about 26 letters after me name. And I'm like, what's a letter after me name? I'm hardly going to write that down on a piece of paper, am I?
What did I get? I got Microsoft Office certified. That's supposed to be after my name. And then I got British National Martial Artist. I'm supposed to have BNMAA after my name as well. And it's like, no. No.
The thing is, what's weird about that is even having a city and guilds for cooking gives you 2 letters after your name. And I've got 2 city and guilds in cooking. I've got 2 city and guilds in waitering and silver service waitering, including Garridon service. So that's 8 letters after my name straight away. And that's without all the other ones. And I'm like, why would I want to use them? You know.
I think if you're in a certain circle, certain letters after your name can help your career a little bit. But I think a lot of it is snobbery and fakery, you know.
It is. I mean, it was weird because I had to renew my passport. And when I went to renew it, it was actually mentioned by the passport office. They obviously have to check the application.
Yeah.
And they contacted me and said, why haven't you got Lord in front of your name?
If you think I'm calling you Lord, you can bog off.
Honest to God truth, they wanted to know why I haven't got Lord in front of my name. Because I own a piece of Scottish Castle and I've got a lordship, they wanted to know if I wanted Lord on my passport.
Do you know what? I'm not going to mention their name, but there's a certain biker who bought a title and calls himself Lord something or other. And whenever you hear it, it just makes people go.
It does. I could not go round saying, "Oh, hello, I'm Lord Wayne Seaton." Nah.
We've got it's a pile of rubble now, but we've got Ardmillan up in Ayrshire from the Crawford family line, and we've got a lairdship that goes with that as well. But Lord of what? This little bit of stone here. Exactly. So you know.
I mean, I could, if I wanted to, I could call myself Emperor of the Moon because I own 10 acres of the moon, apparently. How you know? I think it was in the 90s, you were able to buy 10 acres of the moon, and I got gifted 10 acres of the moon for my birthday or Christmas. So of course I'm like, well, do I then turn myself into a Lord of the Moon or an Emperor of my little section of the moon? You know, and you think to yourself, why would you? Oh, here we go. Moon
Emperor Wayne.
Emperor Mong.
I got like my missus. I bought her a star for Valentine's Day. What's that, Gary? I never went to school. Was in a nut house until I was 14 and went into the butcher's trade. See, I've known Gary like over 20 years, and Gary, you're a knob sometimes. You really are. But no, he's from the Elephant and Castle, and he used to be a window cleaner, if my memory serves him right, and then he fell off a ladder. It's a bit of a silly thing to do when you're a window cleaner, but you know. Isn't that right?
But the bizarre thing is, you get a lunar deed,
Yeah.
all official. You even get a map explaining where your piece is. Hang on, if I can find it on there.
Oh,
Where is it?
see where the X marks the spot.
Yeah, that's my little spot of the moon. So
Is that where you've been growing that alien herbage?
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, right, we have a Bill of Rights, and it is quite funny. You have the right to be guided by your heart, to seek human dignity and honour, to pursue happiness, freedom of speech, religion, and property of management. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, if I own that piece of the moon, I can do what I like. I ain't got to go by their Bill of Rights. I go by what I decide. You will have the right to rent to any being you choose. Okay. And it's got, yeah, but it's even got a constitution. And it's got 7 articles in that constitution.
On the moon's constitution?
Yep. Apparently there is a lunar constitution and Bill of Rights. Our government is based on a premise that too many landlords spoil the profit structure. For this reason, the lighted lunar surface will be governed by one being, hereinafter known as the head cheese. This is a position claimed, not earned, and cannot be unclaimed. The head cheese is hereinafter and until the end of eternity, known by the name Dennis M. Hope.
I've actually got another astral body related conspiracy theory. It's only a quick one. When NASA reported the discovery of Planet 9 in 2016, do you remember that?
Yeah.
There was an astronomer called Paul Cox, and he basically jumped on the internet and said that Planet 9 was actually a second sun. And in a live video that was posted to some site, he examined Mercury's transit and pointed out a second sun. And he said NASA and other organizations, they usually hide that stuff from us. This time they're telling us the truth because other people have found them out. Why would they choose to hide a second sun from us? That's what I want to know.
Well, surely it wouldn't be that easy, would it?
Well, you'd look up there and go, oh, look at that.
Yeah. It's like the other one, was it that materialised last week about the cube in front of the sun?
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
And everybody's going, oh, my God. Oh, look, they've taken that picture. Well, I'm sorry, but anybody can edit a photo. And I commented, and I took the mickey and went, oh, no, that means we're all going to get assimilated soon.
That's right, the Borg are coming.
The Borg are coming. And, of course, actually people were believing it. And they were going, oh, my word, they can't be. I'm like, hang on a minute, the Borg are from Star Trek. Hello? And then all of a sudden they realise.
Well, look at H.G. Wells when he read out War of the Worlds on the radio. And there's people in New York going out killing themselves because they thought it was real. And they were taken to the streets screaming and all sorts of things. It just shows you how powerful, the power of suggestion is and how thick some people are. But, you know, mix the two together, bad concoction.
With that, there was obviously that broadcast was Orson Welles, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And most people.
Did I say H.G. Wells?
Yeah.
Oh, bollocks, same surname. You know what I meant.
Most people were listening to another radio station, listening to another show. But of course, when that radio show was finished, Orson Welles' one had already started, so they had missed the bit that said, this is just a story. So, of course, they've gone straight in and they've heard all of this, and all of a sudden this Martian's just popped up out of it. And, of course, that started the panic. And I'd seen a documentary a few months ago, and it was about the Orson Welles radio show.
Yeah.
And apparently there was a group of guys that had been out, I think they'd been out hunting or something, and they'd come back and they'd turned the radio on, and they got to the section where the Martians had left the pit, and were starting their rampage across the fields and that.
That's right.
And they automatically panicked. They'd been drinking, so they automatically got on the back of the truck, all guns in their hands, and they're driving through the countryside trying to find tripods. And the local sheriff had to be called because as they were going down one lane, there was this big old water tower. You know those big sort of cylindrical round water towers? There was one of those in a clearing, and because they were drunk, they thought it was a Martian, and they started taking pot shots at it, and that was the town's water supply.
Oh God! You couldn't make it up, could you?
But that's what happens when you bring out a story that people are so convinced is real that you take action upon that.
Well, what's your take on? And it's not conspiracy theory; it's real stuff. And everybody in the chat room there, the NASA live feeds, you know, from the space station. What's your thought on? Because I mean, I've seen the videos, you know, where there are certain things watching them. There's certain lights there. I know not everything they see is a UFO or whatever. I know some of it is their own poop frozen and floating past them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But on the odd one where you can see it moving and stopping and then positioning itself, and then all of a sudden the feed's cut. Now everybody's going, well, aliens. You know, there you go, everybody. You had an alien there. What do you make of that?
To be honest, my own personal opinion, I'm not really bothered whether other people decide to try and slate it or not. My personal opinion, I've always gone by this belief, is that we're the Star Trek Genesis project.
That's a good idea, yeah, I like that.
That this planet had all of the materials it needed, but it was the wrong type of life. So an asteroid was smacked into this planet to take out that life, but to allow all of the cocktails and the makeup of that was already there to remain. So by using an asteroid, hit the Earth, create a nuclear winter as such, kill off what life is there, but keep the basic structures of life there. Then they've added to it.
Well, our DNA went blink, didn't it? There was I think it was a gap of 30,000 years. Yeah. We went from shitting in our hands and clapping to good morning, old bean. And that it's just way brief.
So I would sort of go as far as to say that something has come down with a couple of extra bits of DNA or an extra chromosome or an extra atom or something like that to slightly change the makeup that's on the planet. And then obviously evolution has then started to take over. So obviously you go from the amoebas, bacteria, then to single cell organisms and fish, and then on through and so on and so forth. And all of these sightings and abductions are then coming back to check on what they've done.
That actually, there's a lot of people who got a very, very similar outlook on it, and it explains a lot. Doesn't explain Bigfoot, but it explains a lot.
No, it doesn't. I mean, Bigfoot, as far as that's concerned, that could just be like a genetic anomaly.
Do you want to know the weirdest one I've ever heard about Bigfoot? And it was one that literally I almost dropped my cup of tea on this one. Earth is a prison planet. Big feet are actually an alien species, and they're sent here to serve out a prison sentence.
So what about all the other types of species? You know,
Mike, do you want to hear my theory about it?
A herd of sparrows committed armed robbery at the Intergalactic Bank and got caught coming out, so they got sent to Earth for 25 years.
Exactly. I still stick to when we were Pangaea, the Gigantopithecus was about. It went to all bits of Pangaea, and then everything broke up. We still had land bridges and stuff, so and it's been proved there's been things living along the land bridges, and it spread out to various parts of the Earth, and that would explain why you get the hairy men in Scotland. You get where can we get? You've got the Yowie in Australia, so that goes from one extreme to another. Then you've got the Bhutan ones, and you've got the skunk apes and everything like that. That explains why they're everywhere. You know.
I mean, it's just when I see the video footage of, and there is one particular one which was viewed, I think it was from a space shuttle mission. They were just coming up to the International Space Station, and you see an object, and it's following the curvature of the Earth, and then all of a sudden it does a complete U-turn and backs off the other way.
That's right.
Just as something comes up from the planet and goes straight up past where it was sitting.
That's right.
I can't physically see how anything physical could have maneuvered like that without its contents being scrambled.
Nothing but our technology could do that.
No, we couldn't. If we had an aircraft that was able to maneuver that quick, the pilot would have been scrambled straight away, because the G-forces involved in that, no one would have recovered from that.
It's nothing.
But that maneuvered way too quickly. And then you've got Dark Knight.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, the theories of that. I mean, is that a piece of debris from a previous launch? Is it a satellite that no one uses anymore, or is it an unknown satellite that nobody knows about from China or India that they've put up there? But the problem is it keeps shadowing.
That's right.
So it must have some form of intelligence in it to be able to shadow the International Space Station without sort of sometimes getting too close.
Well,
and then other times they don't notice it at all.
No, exactly. I mean, there's all the potty ones out there, like the moon is hollow and it's actually a space station and they're watching. Why would you want to watch us unless we are that interesting and we were an experiment? Who knows? But the Earth's supposed to be the moon's supposed to be hollow and there's little green aliens in there. I think there is life out there. I do think our governments know about it, and I think they know about it for a hell of a long time, but they think we're not ready for it.
I've described it to people that if you were to do that on a clear night,
what are you trying to say? Look, I can't do this.
No. If you put your hand up like that to the sky at night time, and then try and count how many lights you see in that rectangle, all those lights that you see are either suns, planets, or galaxies. At some point somewhere along the line. Now, if each one of those lights was a sun, they've got their own gravitational pull, which means that certain elements and that will only be able to come in so far, and they'll form planets just like ours. With the right distance from that sun, you've got the Goldilocks zone, which could have life on it. So
and if you have to be carbon life.
No, it could be silicon based. We don't know, because we haven't ventured out to another planet that can actually tell us whether there's life on there or not. It's like this new one with the Perseverance. You know, they've gone off to go to Mars. They've got equipment on board that's going to take samples, which should be able to tell us whether there is actually had been life on Mars.
All right,
We're almost pretty much certain that there was life on Mars at one point, but because of the atmosphere breaking down and becoming a lot thinner than it used to be, that life has either gone subterranean or it died out.
Have you read the CIA reports on the remote viewers, especially the Mars reports? I've got one of them. I will send it to you, and it makes for very interesting reading. The remote viewer, they're looking at Mars, but they're looking at Mars, I think it's like something like 1.5 million years ago, or maybe even older than that. But it was at the end of their civilization failing, the end of their atmosphere going and everything like that. And it does make for interesting reading. I'll leave it up. I'll send you it.
I mean, I just think that with all the stars that are out there, I think, you know, even if you've got one planet rotating around that one sun, and if every star in the sky was a sun, which we know it's not because they're galaxies as well, if that just one star had one planet around it, you've got a possibility of millions of planets out there, and out of those millions, thousands of those could have life on it. And who's to say that their humanoid form life didn't start the same time as our dinosaurs started.
Yeah.
Which would then put them millions of years ahead of us, so their technology would be more advanced than ours.
Well, they reckon, like, when you follow like the Babylonian scripts and stuff, you know, when they like the Gilgamesh and all that stuff, when they talk about the Anunnaki and everything, they reckon in there that we didn't start here. We started off elsewhere, and then we were brought here.
Yeah.
And our DNA was put in with whatever was here, and we were made to look like them, wasn't it?
Which again is basically the Star Trek Genesis theory.
Yeah.
The building blocks were put here, and then them coming back is them checking on their experiment. It's a history trip and a biology trip all in one. These aliens are some part of galactic school or something, and they're coming back every now and then to see how their experiment has advanced. And
so I just saw something James has put in the chat room there. 60-foot shark videos and photo behind a submarine megalodon. There's been more and more. I've seen Deep Blue, the world's biggest great white that they've found so far, but there has been more and more sightings and things turning up, which points towards a fucking dirty great big shark that's killing massive sharks and whales. What do you reckon?
Why not? You know, why couldn't there be a 60-foot shark floating about out there somewhere? The oceans are that big. I mean, we are looking more into space than we are on our own planet.
Right, that's right.
And I think, you know, what we need to be doing is we need to be looking at our own planet more than sort of venturing off out into space.
I'll tell you what would be, I mean, it's like the Marianas Trench, and there's a few other trenches have got a different layer, and then once you can get through that layer, they reckon that it's going back to almost the Ice Age stuff that's down there. But
yeah,
why can't they spend some money on that? And like, why can't they spend some money on going up to the Antarctic, thawing out this hidden civilization that's supposed to be up there, finding that hole that's supposed to be there, and saying, "Here, up there's your cousin."
I think now you've got the likes of Elon Musk and SpaceX getting involved with space exploration. I think what that will now do is that will give other organisations the opportunity to actually spend money here rather than an advancement of space technology. And you know, for years we've been saying we are venturing too far out into space, but the problem there is that space is probably going to be the only answer because of what we've done to this planet, and some people believe that the damage we've done to it is irreparable. We have got to start looking out into space, because if we can't repair what damage we've made, what are we going to do?
I can remember, I mean, you're roughly the same age as me, aren't you? I remember when I was 14 that being in secondary school and them saying that they'd found the hole in the ozone layer, and I can remember it back then. And then all of a sudden, now it's, there's a hole in the ozone layer, and then it's been fixed. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And people are going, "Oh no, the ozone hole layer. No, it doesn't. It does bloody well exist. Have a look and look at all the weather changes that we've had, you know, over the years."
I mean, I'd heard. I go back about 2 years now. I'd heard that the ozone layer had actually fixed itself 16 years ago, and this was a leading geography professor. A big university, and he literally just turned around and said, you know, it fixed itself 16 years ago. But what they want you to do is they want you to keep running the course of trying to help the ozone layer and to help the planet. That they're creating this lie so that you will keep on helping the planet.
Makes sense. Yeah. Well, look at the lockdown. When the lockdown went down, and it was the proper lockdown. Look at all the species that came back, and the seas started to clear up, and the lakes, and this, that, and the other. And then, of course, our idiot government says, "Oh, do you know what? You can bloody well go out down the beach." And then, obviously, tourists went, "Do you know what? I'm going to take a dump on the beach," and left all the rubbish and fucked it up again. But
the problem with that, I mean, I was on there this morning on his Boris's live feed, and the amount of people that were kicking off over that and saying, "Oh, the government's done a bad job and all this." I'm like, well, have they? Because they've only done what they can base their findings on. But if they don't get their findings straight away, they can only give you the advice on what they've got.
My thing with that, with public areas, they should have had strict laws all the time with don't leave rubbish, don't do this, don't do that, and then it would encourage everything back. So I don't quite see why people can't do that.
The problem was that because they closed public toilets, people had gone down to the beach, and when they wanted to go to the loo, they couldn't because there was no public toilets open. So they were sort of jumping behind people's hedges. That then caused problems with people that owned hedges near beaches. And so, but the thing was, it's all been common sense. And I was talking to one of our local MPs, and I said to him, all of this business with the face masks is all a little too late. Yeah. I said, you knew this virus was coming back in November, December time.
That's right.
And he tried to argue the toss. And I said, no, the whole world knew this was coming way in advance. What you should have done was, rather than turn around and go, right, we're going into lockdown, shops are going to shut, that's it, you're closed down, we'll do furlough and all of this. They should have just turned around and said, right, wear masks, social distance until we've got more information. And then as we get it come in, we will update you from there. That way, shops wouldn't have shut. Staff wouldn't have had to have been furloughed, which with that furlough money has got to be paid back. So all those businesses that have paid that furlough or claimed the furlough from the government have got to now pay that back over a period of time. That's going to cost them money in the long run.
Well, it's sorry, carry on.
You've got companies that have closed down. We've got a company near me, another coach company. He's closed down because in September he doesn't know whether he's going to have a job.
And that sucks.
And that's all because of it. And I shut my coach company down, but that was because my parents were retiring, and I could see issues arising come the winter months.
Yeah.
And obviously with me now doing Spook and Ori and doing my own public paranormal investigations, I found it would be easier just to close the business down. I could have very easily have blamed COVID-19. But I'm like, no, I won't. I'll just shut it down due to retirement. That's job done. And that's finished. It's gone. But then all of a sudden, all these other companies are going, no, we've got to shut down. Well, you wouldn't have had to had you have gone by the social distancing rules and masks right from the word go. And then this person turned around and went, but that's what they're doing now. I said, yeah, but the problem is on the 15th of June, you reopened the shops. Once you reopened the shops, people were swarming to Primark. Yep. Oh, we've missed Primark. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
Doors are opening on the 15th of June. The place was swamped.
Yep.
No one was wearing a mask. And I said, the incubation period for the virus is 2 weeks. You spent 5 weeks of going into town and going shopping, spreading that virus. So anybody that has got the virus has gone into Primark, has given it to half the town. So it's too late.
Do you agree? Do you agree? I mean, I think this myself, but there's a lot of people out there who. Do you remember Christmas time? There was that really weird, nasty flu thing.
Yeah.
Right. I had it, and my other ass mum had it. There was no connection there, you dirty people. But I was staying at hers, and it literally knocked me out, and I couldn't drive, couldn't do anything for 4 or 5 days, and I went through nearly 2 inhalers in 4 days. It mucked your breathing up that bad. But also at the same time, the Chinese were buying in on the black market, and it's been proved, loads and loads and loads of extra medical supplies, masks, gloves, etc., etc., etc. And then all of a sudden, as you know, various parts of the North American government were started buying those in January, February time. Then the virus came out, and then most of those who had that cold flu thing beforehand didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a tester?
I think so, but what I still tried to get my head around was, if you're going to invent a virus, Because obviously the claim has been that it started in a lab. It doesn't matter what lab or where the lab was, but the virus originated in a lab. Now, if you're a business that creates vaccines or may create a bug for whatever reason, when you create the bug, you create the antidote for it.
Thank you.
The same as a scientist, when they're developing a vaccine for a rattlesnake bite, they need the rattlesnake venom in the first place to create the antidote. And that's the same with the flu. The flu, and this kicked off an argument with someone on Boris Johnson's feed earlier on. He was going on about, when the flu kicked off in last century and killed millions of people, what happened then? I went, hang on a minute. The flu vaccine wasn't invented until the 40s.
Right.
That's why the Spanish flu killed 18 million people, because there wasn't a vaccine for it. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, but they still could have handled it better. But, you create a virus, you're going to create an antidote to go with that virus in case it does accidentally get out. So I think that there is an antidote already out there. The vaccine is there. It's just they're choosing to let it run its course, because in a way, if you go by the conspiracy theories of the New World Order, one way of sort of combating that is possibly create the virus, let it go. The virus is designed to take out the older generation, the people that have already got underlying health issues.
And ethnic minorities.
Reduces the world population, and the world population at the moment has got to a stage where the world can't handle it.
That's right.
And so by releasing this virus, it gets rid of, as they would class it, the unwanted, and to leave the elite behind to carry on. And then once it's done, once it's run its course, they'll go, oh, by the way, we've now got a vaccine that works.
Yeah.
And I just think there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, and I don't think we're being told the full facts. I think it was the WHO ordered there to be no autopsies done on anybody that died of COVID-19.
And Bill Gates owns a lot of the WHO, doesn't he?
Yeah. And the order was given out that no autopsies were to be made. Well, apparently in Italy, there was a town where about 50 or 60 people had died in the course of a week. And the mayor or the governor of the town was told, no, you are not going to do any autopsies. And this bloke turned around and he went, yes, we are, because them families want to know what killed their son, their daughter, their mum, dad, whatever. They did these autopsies. And apparently, according to the person that led the autopsies, they found that if these people had anticoagulants, antibiotics and vitamin C, they wouldn't have died. They'd still be walking around. And
it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It got shut down. But when we look at our figures, and our figures are ridiculous, because even if it doesn't matter what you've died of, you're still put down as because of the World Health Organization, you die of COVID-19. A friend of mine, his mum died 3 or 4 weeks ago of a heart attack. On her death certificate, it said COVID-19. And there was a bloke in Devon riding his motorbike down a road. A lorry pulled out in front of him and he couldn't stop in time. He went, pow, straight into the back of it and decapitated himself. His head came clean off his shoulders. Family gets the death certificate, COVID-19.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Absolutely ridiculous. Clean off his shoulders, and yet he died of COVID. I'm like, wow, this virus don't have to mutate quick.
That's one powerful sneeze.
That's turned into a right killer.
Right, before we disappear, because we've got to go because we're running over. Ooh. Do you think in our lifetime we are going to see either we're going to have some good or bad aliens come down and go, oh, hi guys, or the government saying, actually, yes, they are real, they're here?
I think in our lifetime, I mean, our lifetime's got at least another 50 years, 40, 50 years to run.
Bloody hope so.
So I think personally, in those 40, 50 years, I think we are going to get some sort of evidence that there is something else out there.
There
Whether
needs
it is
something
good or bad.
definitive.
I think the human race itself has advanced too quickly.
Yeah.
When you consider from the industrial age onwards, the advancement of the human race has moved on so fast compared to life beforehand. You know, we've you know, I mean, human beings are supposedly have been around for something like 200,000 years, and it's only been the last 150, 200 years that humankind has boosted to what it is now.
See,
Yet it's
I
taken
think
100 and something odd thousand years to get to where it was before all of a sudden there was this big boom.
we've had precursors, because you know there's an extinction event every few thousand years. That would
Yeah.
explain why in nearly every single religious text, including Native American tribes, and most of them all talk about a race of giants, red-haired giants, and this, that, and the other. I personally
Yeah.
think that was humans Mark II, we're humans Mark III. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, it's like an ice age. You know, everybody's saying about global warming, but this planet has had loads of ice ages, and they happen every now and then.
Yeah.
And it's just the planet resetting itself. But
That's
before it goes into an ice age, it warms up.
Yeah.
So it's possible that in the next 40 or 50 years, or 100 years, 150 years, we're going to get another ice age, which again is going to sort of restart the planet, and life will have to restart. And with any luck, we'll have the brains to figure it out and be able to get through that ice age and come out the other side.
So.
And I think this is the reason why venturing into space is a good idea. Find these planets that we could all go to. So if this does happen, we've got a standby.
Yeah. What's that moon? Titan.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm interested in, is Titan.
I mean, at the moment, technically only takes 6 months to get to Mars. That's with current technology. But who's to say in 50 years' time? I mean, obviously, Elon Musk is proving that with the rockets he's using now, that the technology has advanced to such a stage that he's now using reusable rockets that cost a lot less than what NASA were originally using, and they can be reused. So when you're looking at going on to Titan and Europa, and other such moons or other planets, you've got to look at the price involved and the resources involved. And just by going to Mars now, if we can prove there are resources on Mars, that could be a staging post for the next step.
Well, they've invented the ion induction engine. They've actually
Exactly.
proved it works, although it's only moves something tiny, but it's there, it works, and they can make it into something usable.
Exactly. But 100 years ago, we'd only just started flying, and nobody thought of having a fart out the back of the engine to make us go faster.
Exactly.
You know, and now look, we go through pulse engines.
Yep.
Pulse engines were only something on Star Trek, and yet they've used pulse engines.
Yep.
And it proves that it's more economical to use pulse engines because you're still getting the speed, but you're not using as much fuel.
And I also think, in regards to Elon Musk and stuff like that, I actually like the guy, and I think that the more privateers that come up in the space industry, and they're coming out, they because they've got a lot more. We're not governed by you. We're going to do this, this, and this. We're going to invent this, this, and this. They've got a lot more chance of coming up with the goods, I think.
And I think what it also does is it stops the governments from investing heavily into the space race by allowing private companies to come in. I think it actually gives more opportunity for the government's money to stay where it's needed. I mean, we waste money giving, foreign aid to India when all they do is use it on their rockets to go into space. And I'm yet to come across an Indian satellite.
That's the fastest Indian takeaway I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. So who's to say that in 50 years' time, Elon Musk's team have not invented yet another engine that instead of taking us 6 months to get to Mars, only takes 4 weeks.
Yeah. I hope so,
and safely. So
I mean, if Elon Musk wants to sponsor us, that's absolutely fine. Tesla's the best cars in the world.
Well, they're just expensive.
So go and buy one. Teslas. Elon
Yeah.
Musk. Yay. And on that note, I will say fantastic to have you on here. I'm really glad you're going to be joining us. And
Cool, thank you.
literally, anytime you want to jump on, jump on.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be, as I said earlier on, I'm going to be heading off to sunny Corfu in 2 weeks' time. So I'm going to be about for the next week or so. I have got. Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to do another plug. Right. Obviously, I've already mentioned the book. One of my plans has been that for every book release that I do, I will be auctioning off one copy, and it'll be a signed copy. Hang on, let's get a signed copy. So I've had people ask for signed copies already. So I can't see what I'm showing you because for some reason my camera on my phone is frozen.
No, we can see it. It's all right, we can see it.
So what I'll be doing is I'll be auctioning off a signed copy, and every book release it will be a different charity. So on the 14th of August, I'm going to be doing a live feed to auction off a signed copy of my Spookanori. And the money, all of the money that is raised from that will be going to Help for Heroes.
Good.
So if anybody wants to go over onto the Spookanori group, the live feed will be on there, and whatever money we raise from that will go to Help for Heroes. When Lady J comes out in August, at some point in September, I would have set it up for another charity, and I will auction off that book for a charity.
I get you.
So every step of the way, a charity is going to get a donation from Spookanori through a live auction on Facebook.
Well done to you, and I will certainly plug that for you. You're welcome.
Excellent.
Like I say, you're welcome on here anytime. Anytime you want to use a Mad Bull Londoner who teaches kickboxing as one of your characters, let me know. You're more than welcome to. All right.
Well, every now and then I do a raffle for a character. So anybody that watches some of my live feeds, I do a live feed, and people put their names down that are interested. I then do another live feed after about a week or so, and I pick out that name, and that name then goes into the book. And then with a whistle on the hill, a friend of mine, Stuart Strachan, that lives in
I've watched it.
he got picked out on that one, and he was as pleased as punch that he's been immortalised in one of my books.
I'm just going to put this up a second. Thank you very much, James. James has actually watched the show since the beginning, so he's been on here over 3 years. But thank you.
Cool.
Right, I will see you anon. Everybody out there in watching Mand and in the chat show and everything. Taylor will be back next week. You're still welcome to come on and help me take the mickey out of Taylor and say you're adopted, as I do. And I think we may go off, get finished with the conspiracy theories, and go on to something else next week.
Cool.
But on that note, thank you ever so much for joining us. We will see you again soon. I wish you all the best with your book, and to everybody else out there, I will say goodbye. So I'll let you say goodnight.
Cheers, thank you, and good night, everybody.
And goodbye.